I always start with, so I'm here with. I'm going to start with that as well. That's my thing. So I am here with the Bat, the movie reviewer, interviewer, watch along holder, unboxing, ranking, movie hauls, the one and only horror YouTuber, Lucard. Thank you for joining me in this interview where we talk about creators. And there's nobody more creative than you. You create a lot.
Oh,
So
thanks.
thank you for joining us.
Oh no, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, I missed off like horror YouTuber of the month, 80 odd thousand views, 300 odd videos in the and this isn't took a lot of work to get to the
It
point
did.
where you're at now.
Yeah, it's been a journey.
Like from video one to now, you've done so much, and you kind of follow different paths and promote different things and try different things. What was it that made you do the, say, I don't know, video one?
Well, I was kind of it's a couple reasons. One it was like early on in lockdown,
Mhm.
so I wanted some sort of an outlet.
Yeah.
Now, going back even further than that, a few years prior, I want to say 2017 ish. Uh, my best friend Brett and I used to talk about possibly doing a podcast. And he and I were very, very similar. We liked all the same stuff. We hung out all the time. I mean, I talked to him every day, every single day.
Awesome.
And uh, so we just kind of joking like, oh, let's do a podcast, dude. We talk about horror movies, wrestling, all the stuff we love, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah. Let's try to do that. We never did do it. Um, he ended up actually passing away. He
Oh
had
man.
a yeah, he like suddenly passed away.
Oh, sorry
And
to hear that.
so I was just kind of thinking, what, like, what can I do? I'd like to do something similar to that. And then
Yeah.
I found that people on YouTube were doing that kind of stuff. We're doing movie reviews and unboxings and stuff. And I'm like, that's cool. That's sort of similar to kind of what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, let me start this up, and in kind of in honor of Brett and kind of what I want to do. And so that's how the whole thing really, really started.
Oh, well, that's a lovely story. It's a really nice kind of way of honoring your friend back through the passions that you had,
Yeah.
because that's what we BS with our friends about, isn't it? Like we just chat away about the things that, movies and games, and just like it's the way we connect. It's
Yeah.
certainly it's a lot more important than people think it is. It's just like it's hard to kind of define what it is people get out of that. Yeah,
Yep.
it's an interesting way of connecting. It's probably the way that you and I have connected, really, and just literally throwing things that we like at each other. And like your approach is, I think your approach to what you do is very welcoming. And not everybody's approach to kind of YouTube is that it can be quite a loud medium, whereas I think with yours it's a very open medium, a very welcoming approach. Is that something, because you're dealing in predominantly horror, but you cover so many things, or is it just that that's the way you encourage people in to watch? Like, what is it? Is it just your personality? Because I feel like you're not the sort of person who's going to come on and shout for an hour about how bad a film is and tear it apart.
Right, right. Well, yeah, I do a lot of research on all these movies. I do. Um, Now I didn't start that way. When I first started, I was just kind of flying by the skin of my teeth, and I and I was just kind of saying whatever I thought. Like the real early reviews and stuff I did, they're actually pretty terrible. Because really I had no plan. I just kind of hit record, and I was like, all right, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna talk about this movie, and
Mhm.
that's what the first like dozen or so videos are. And yeah, so please don't watch those. Uh,
So this is the unusual interview where the person you're interviewing tells you not to watch their.
yes, yes.
Just watch from 12 to 300.
Yeah, to like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
so I kind of slowly uh developed a system of how I would like a review to go. So I just kind of break the movie down. and I talk about it. I say what the plot is, and et cetera, et cetera. And then I go into what I liked and what I didn't like, or what someone might not like. Like, if it's something real crazy or something, I'll mention it just so people know that it's out there. But I won't give it away either.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. I don't like giving stuff away if I don't have to.
Right.
Because that kind of defeats the whole purpose of the thing, right?
Yeah, true. Especially if it's a horror film. There's, the whole thing is sort of predicated on a lot of the time on what things you don't know yet until you watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody has different approaches. I think my approach to horror sometimes is like, I just don't try and predict or think ahead and just try and be in the moment of it. Whereas I know some people look at it almost like a whodunit kind of thing and try and unpick and get there before the film gets there.
Yeah.
Your reviews are always so thoughtful and respectful of the creators. I guess that ties in with doing the interviews as well, because you're meeting some of the people who have made these films, and then 9 times out of 10 they're lovely people. So why would you want to offend that person? But equally being honest about your opinion. It's how do you deal with that?
It can be kind of a slippery slope. Because even if a movie is terrible, I try to find something good about it.
Yeah.
And because, making a movie is not easy.
No.
And I know, because I have a film degree. I wanted to be a filmmaker. That's what I initially wanted that way back in the day. So I know how hard it is to make these things. They're not easy. So I have respect for anybody that can complete a movie.
Yes,
absolutely.
Same. Yeah, same.
And 100%. So I don't want to crap all over that. So
no,
I try to bring some sort of positivity to it, even if I didn't care for it.
Yeah, because obviously there is somebody that maybe does care for it as well, along the lines of, not necessarily going to be everything is universally loved or universally hated. There is some we can have that. That's kind of sometimes quite tricky now, isn't it? Because you have to either be all one way or all the other. And I think it's nice. Oh, nice! What a wonderful adjective to choose. Nice, but it's very refreshing. That's better. To kind of have those sort of moral guidelines when you're thinking about what someone's put their heart and soul into.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you have like little unwritten rules or guidelines when you're putting something together, like a skeleton plan, or is it quite loose? You just make your notes, bullet points.
Yeah. So what I do is when I watch, if I'm reviewing a movie, I'll play it. I'll be there with my notebook. I'll take fairly meticulous notes. And then while I'm watching it, I'll go to the next page and I'll write stuff that I'm liking or stuff that I'm not liking. And, I'll just kind of base it sort of around that. For example, I just did one about this vampire movie called Fangs Out, and which I didn't care for. But sometimes it's really tough to find positive things to say about a movie.
Yes. Yeah. So something is strange, isn't it? Sometimes a film can anger you. Like,
yeah,
like even the most placid. I would say I'm quite a calm person, but sometimes I can hear an album or watch a film, and it can like anger me, and I have to kind of talk myself down a little bit and be like, they didn't do this deliberately to upset you, Matthew. Like,
right. Yeah.
You're able to kind of compartmentalize that and look at it as a piece of art rather than just a subjective thing.
I try to. Yeah, that's the goal.
I feel like you do. I've said this before, and it's not hyperbole or just throwing things around. It's like my favorite YouTube channel from before we knew each other. So I'm not just saying that.
I appreciate that.
No, it's okay. And do you know what we have never spoke about, and I've never asked you about before, is like, are you a massive fan of Dracula AD 1972? Just to get the name?
I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. From what I recall, I enjoyed it. It's been quite a while.
Because that's what drew me to finding your channel initially. Oh, just like the character in Dracula AD 1972. I was like, oh, okay. So,
so the Alucard, I got that actually from a Universal movie.
right. Oh,
I got
okay.
that from Son of Dracula with Lon
Oh, is
Chaney.
that in Son of I
That
own that.
he
I
was
own that, but
Count
I've not
Alucard.
seen it.
Yep.
I am will slap my wrists because I may have seen that film. I know I own it, and I just didn't even switch on to it. No,
and a lot of people think it's because of what is it, Helsing, the anime Helsing. They also have an Alucard character in there.
Right. Yeah.
I have never seen an episode, so it's not from that. I grew up with the Universal monsters.
Right.
My mom was a big fan, and my mom is the one that got me into horror movies.
Right. Oh,
so
that's really cool.
I was very, very young when I started watching horror, and like my first memory is like Poltergeist.
Really?
I was like, I think I was like 4. Poltergeist, and then that was it. Like I was like, all right,
I'm in.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. In a few years' time, I'm gonna have my own YouTube channel, man.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking in 1984.
Yeah. And then you were like, what the hell is a YouTube channel? Why do I want one so much? So I've noticed like some of the things that I really enjoyed looking at in your content were like related to the video nasties. You did a series like about video nasties, and that's quite ingrained in British culture, particularly people who are into horror, who are around my age, sort of maybe 30s, 40s, 50s, video shop culture.
Mm-hmm.
Was that something that you were aware of at the time, video nasties, or was there an American equivalent that you were kind of, because it's just seeking out things that you're not really supposed to have, isn't it? Really, that's the whole.
I mean, basically, yeah. I mean,
allure of it.
I learned about the video nasties probably in the 90s when I started really delving into different films and whatnot, and really getting into horror. And now, I mean, I like a bunch of boom movies, not just horror, but horror is my favorite. Put it that way.
Yeah.
That's it. You just kind of dive in, and then then I discovered, they had this thing called the video nasties. And so I looked into it, and I read about it, and I found the list of the movies and all that stuff. And I'm like, I have to see these movies.
And isn't it strange? What they did was they gave people who like collecting movies and watching movies a list. Right. And that's what we love. We love lists. So and then they will collect all of them. If you couldn't have planned that in a worse way if you wanted people to not watch these movies that people are still decades later working their way through some brilliant films and some terrible films. Where there is there were the people who made this judgment. They weren't necessarily judging the quality of the film. They were just looking at little areas of them, weren't they? So they're quite a disparate bunch of films.
Yes. Oh, big time. Yeah. And like I said, the quality varies so much.
Yeah. Oh man.
And but actually, I actually need to get back to doing more of those, and continue that series, because I really enjoy doing those. Those are fun.
Yeah, and I think there's a real interest in them, certainly in Britain now, in a retro kind of way, certainly from films like Censor. And there's a documentary about video nasties that I bought for about maybe £3 secondhand a few years ago. Now it's worth a lot of money because it was like a limited release and just can't get hold of it on streaming or anything. So there seems to be a bit of love for the old video nasties at the moment, but they never really went away, did they?
No, because I mean, some of them are just absolute classics. Like, it's just
that's true. Yeah. So is that an interesting film rather than an interesting British culture? But I don't think I've met many people online or in real life from America who have this understanding of British culture. Is it something you've been interested in? Like, would you sit and watch old British movies or TV shows, or was it just a case of the video nasties got you into it, or James Bond? Or
I've always watched British programming, and like the in the States, we have this channel called PBS, and they play a lot of
Yeah.
British stuff and BBC stuff and whatnot.
Yes.
So that kind of slowly introduced me, and then I started getting into other things. You know, they played stuff like Faulty Towers and
Oh, right.
Keeping Up Appearances. You know,
Oh no. Oh no.
all this kind of stuff. So you
Faulty
know,
Towers are, yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
so I started with that stuff, and you know, then I discovered Monty Python, and you know, all this, and then and
Yeah.
it was like, oh man, this stuff's great. So
Yeah.
um, I was always into British stuff.
That's
For
good.
some
That's
reason, and
interesting.
I don't know why. Even
Yeah.
music, all like my three favorite bands are all British.
Right. Go on, you've got to list them now.
I'm about to say you're gonna ask me to list them, aren't they?
No, no. Go
I
on.
will. Queen, Led Zeppelin, and The Clash.
Wow. Okay. That's a good gig if they all play back to back.
Oh man, that would be amazing.
Yeah, you're getting quite a range there.
And the closest I've seen in person, I did get to see Robert Plant perform live,
Oh,
and
wow.
I got to see Big Audio Dynamite, which has Mick Jones from The Clash in it.
Yeah.
I got to see them live as well.
Oh, wow. You're a good example to people following their passions and their interests. Like you've got thrown yourself right into it. Do you kind of have that where you go down a rabbit hole and you follow something and then you find something else and you go down the next rabbit hole? Is that kind of influenced why you cover so many different things? Is it just a case that you would say you're quite an open person to new things?
Oh yeah, definitely. I kind of pride myself really in covering diverse stuff.
Mm.
Like you know, I've done the Mitch Hedberg movie. If anybody doesn't know who Mitch Hedberg is,
Yeah.
he's this comedian who passed away a long time ago, but he was hilarious, and he did this one
Yes.
movie that I found it, and I'm like,
No
yeah, I
way.
know it's not horror or anything, but it's sort of like cult classic-y. So I would actually say I'm more like horror and cult classic
Yeah.
fan,
Find
and that
I didn't even know he did a
I
movie.
didn't either, and I was amazed. And then when I found it and watched it, and I was like, man, this is hilarious. I need to talk about it. So I went and I did a
Really?
video, and that video actually did pretty well because I guess other people didn't know about it either.
I need to check that one out. I've missed that one because you feel like because of the sort of the slow delivery of the comedy, they wouldn't necessarily lend it. It's a bit like maybe like a Stephen Wright movie. Like, you wouldn't
Right,
expect
right, yeah,
but that sounds really interesting. I'm going to watch your video and then I'm going to try and find the film if it's available somewhere. That sounds really interesting.
yeah. So I always pride like I said, I always like finding little known gems or stuff that people have not heard of and exposing them to it like that gives me a rush for some reason. I love exposing people to new things and you know stuff like that.
Well, YouTube's the perfect platform for that from my point of view. I'm more likely to listen to someone through a screen than sat next to me. So I think most
Right.
people are actually strangely. I think we've had this discussion between ourselves, and it is funny that I'll follow you. Even before I knew you, I'd follow your um, recommendations more than say my best friend who has amazing taste in films. But like, I think you go really wide in your taste and recommendations. Like, there's not many creators with promoting French film, French new wave horror, silent films. That's for me is really interesting because, like you said, I don't think a lot of people are going to find that maybe on their own, just through normal means. It's not like you're going to switch on Netflix and that's going to be there or whatever. Yeah.
Right. Well, I kind of linking that to when I was in film school.
Right.
I was exposed to so much in film school, and I was just I was just taking it all in, and it was just it was just like, oh yeah, just give me more, give me more. So
Yeah.
so I was just consuming anything I could get my hands on, and so that I think that's when I really figured out how much I loved like foreign cinema and silent cinema and all
Yeah.
these different avenues of filmmaking and how like how different everything gets expressed and everything. It was fascinating to me. So still to this day, like I'll like if I see if I have a choice between like say like a French movie or like a big American blockbuster. Guess which one I'm going to watch? I'm going to watch that French movie because that's probably going to be way more interesting.
And I think sometimes you need something like a situation where it's a class and you're told to watch a film and then you have to watch it, and something that forces you down that route. And once you're down that route, it's actually quite, you prefer it and you enjoy it. But the initial thing, sometimes people are put off by subtitles or dubbing or even like black and white, like people put off by black and white. And getting over those little hurdles or having a reason to, or something making it is really key in broadening your tastes. And you find yourself watching things that you would never have dreamt you were going to watch. Hopefully, through people listening to this interview, they will then seek out your channel and then go down that same route. It's almost like free film school.
Yeah, sort of. That's I never really thought of it that way, but kind of.
So talk to me a little bit about the sort of the community of people that watch your videos and watch your reviews, watch all the things that you do, and you really do interact with them. I don't know how you do this, but it seems like straight away and like inclusively make them feel included and part of it. I guess some of that's just your personality and who you are, but is that a conscious effort as well? You want people to feel part of what you're doing. It's not like you're just sat there telling. You're actually open to listening as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I treasure when people comment and people, I mean, even if it's just the most mundane thing, I don't care. If you're commenting, that means you're watching and you're caring enough to comment. Yeah. And that really kind of blows my mind a little bit, that, all these people that I do not know, like I've never met these people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That is just still mind-boggling to me, and will probably always will be. But the my regulars, I guess you could say, they're all wonderful people. I've gotten to know quite a few of them. They're very, very nice. They're all super supportive of me and others, and so I feel like I try my best to support back whenever I can. I obviously I don't have a ton of times, a lot of times, because I have a day job too. So, but when I can, I always try to be there for them because they're always there for me.
That comes across. That really does come across. And you've always been from day one really supportive with myself. And sometimes with social media, and we can look at people. Not that I would do this and you wouldn't do this, but I know there are people who do. Let's just say people, and they look at people in terms of numbers and followers and likes and this and that. And I really got the impression from the moment we started talking that you interact with people as people, and that's not to be underestimated, because I think a lot of creators, it's set up to make you think about those numbers. It's made to incentivize you caring about those things. In a way, it's set up for you to care about those things more than the content, the result of the content. So how do you just keep your focus on what you're doing rather than results, if that makes sense? Like,
well, yeah, okay. So since the way I kind of look at that is that my name is on it, so I want it to be as much quality content as I can do. So I focus more on that. The numbers and stuff, like, that's great, but I kind of don't care. Like, I would rather put out a great video and have people like it, and that right there is enough for me. Like, that's way more than I could ever ask of anyone.
The almost like it would be like the opposite of the manifesto that I'd imagine YouTube as a company has. So yeah, which is fantastic, because you're being successful, you're enjoying it, you're building a group of friends. It's actually quite countercultural.
Yeah, you can sort of, yeah, kind of.
Yeah, I like that. I like that though.
But the other thing is that if you make the right content, or the quality, if you bring the quality to it, the numbers will come by itself. Like, you don't have to worry about the numbers, as long as you're focused on doing what you're supposed to do, and making that the best it can be. The numbers will just be there. Will be there.
Yeah.
And I figured that out a while back. So that's why, I was always like, oh, let me get to 100. Let me get, it's just, and then once I got there, I was like, all right, I'm here. What do I do now?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now it's just more like, let me just keep making, at least. And when I say quality content, I really mean something that I would watch.
Yeah.
That's really.
That's a good
I try to
distinction
please
to make.
myself. Yeah, I try to please myself, because if I please myself, I know others will probably dig it.
An overused phrase, I guess, like passion project, but like passion comes across. Recently been talking to some filmmakers, and it doesn't really matter whether I think it's the greatest film in the world. What matters when I'm interviewing that person is that I can identify that they're doing this genuinely out of a love and a passion for what they're doing, because that's really interesting to hear about. That person talking about the first film they watched that got them to make the film they made, and how they looked up to this person and wanted to make it like that, and how they learn how to edit, and they learn how that's really exciting for me to hear, and it comes across in people's work.
Mm-hmm.
So to hear that's kind of your sort of reason for doing it is really inspiring as well, and that's why I wish you only the most success with what you're doing, giving a platform to people, listening to them, sharing things about, for example, I think I said this to you once before, beyond the IMDb trivia, like I'm really interested in those little tiny things. Were you that kind of kid that was really interested in the details of films and wrestling and or whatever it was you were into, like almost like the micro data of it, like, oh, that guy was in that film, and then he was in this film, and he played the dad of this person, and everybody else is like, okay, that's great, and you're going, no, that's really important.
Yes, that's me to a T. Yes. Growing up, as I was discovering all these different things, it's just like I said, it's kind of like a rabbit hole, and you just keep going down and down and further and further and further, and it's it's weird. I can remember, like, what movie won the Oscar or something, instead of who was the president. I mean, whatever. You know what I mean? Like no. Give me the stuff that I care about. Yeah, and I can tell you all about it. You know what I mean?
It's not a ranking of importance. I think people need to know that it's not like, oh, in season 4, episode 3 of Magnum PI, this happened.
Right.
That's not. I'm not saying that's more important than, say, my grandmother's birthday.
Exactly.
But that's definitely the way that that a lot of people think. I think possibly a lot of your audience thinks as well. So, in terms of other creators, and in terms of YouTube, but also movies, or the things that maybe you've come to recently through your channel or just privately, they're the things that you just absolutely love. It can be anything. Like, I think people would love to hear your recommendations. I know that's a big ask.
To kind of start at the when I first started, I was actually influenced by a lot of Disney vloggers.
Really? I didn't.
And I know that's kind of weird to say, but
no.
People like Adam the Woo and Pagey Mr. Morrow, all these people, and I'm not, because now I don't do what they do, like, at all. Like, that's a totally different ball game than what I do. But I was like, these guys can do all this wonderful stuff, and I'm like, what can I do? Like what was going to inspire me to do this? And they really got me to thinking that I could do YouTube, and so that started me on that journey. But to answer your question, because I know
that's really interesting, because that was not what I thought the bat would tell me
Yes, and I don't think many people would.
But that's really cool because you can get something out of. I'm sure there's somebody watching QVC somewhere going, "This is it. I love the format. I love the layout. I'm gonna," you know what I mean?
Right?
Like,
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
no rule over what sparks off that creative
And
idea.
and then funny enough, um, just about every day, my wife and I will sit and watch the new Adam the Woo video because he does one pretty much every day.
Okay, I'm
So
gonna have to
even
find
still
out
to
who this
this
guy
day,
is.
like 3 years later, like we're still watching this guy like every
Right.
day and seeing what he's up
Oh,
to.
wow. Is that
Just
something you do because you do it as a couple? It's something that you just kind of like a bit like we all have those TV shows that we used to be like what we call appointment viewing that doesn't really exist anymore.
yeah,
Do you
yeah.
think maybe
I
we've
mean,
replaced that?
for us it is
Yeah.
because we don't really watch too much TV. To be honest, we really
No.
don't. Like we watch YouTube and Tubi and all these other
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
You know,
That is the appointment viewing now. Like certain YouTubers will have certain days, and there's the
yeah.
big group in the UK, the Sidemen, and they do Sidemen Sunday, and this is like they're basically just doing variety TV essentially, but it's
Hmm.
always on a Sunday and it's always roughly around the same time, which is essentially must see TV and blocking out your channels.
One of the things that kind of I'm surprised about in what I do is that I actually have people sending me things to watch and review, and I from the get go that was of course that was never my intention. That wasn't my.
No.
I was like, oh, that'll never happen. Blah blah blah. I wasn't even thinking that way.
Yeah.
And so when the first thing got offered to me, I was like, wait, what? Like, wait, you want me to do what? You want me to watch this and then review it?
That's
And like,
yeah. That's
and you're gonna
crazy.
send it to me for free? Okay, like,
Yeah,
okay,
it feels like you're doing something bad.
it
Like,
does. It's like,
yeah,
whoa, this is kind of crazy.
yeah. That's
But
only happened to me a couple of times, but I felt like, are you sure you want to?
yeah,
You're like, because I'll buy it off Amazon, or I'm happy to do that.
yeah. They're like, oh no, so let me email it to you. Well, I'm like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
And but the cool thing about that is that you start making connections with all these folks, and it's
Yeah.
and a lot of them are really nice people.
Mhm.
I've spoken with a bunch of them, and and so I even consider a few of them even pals
That's great.
now. So like it's really cool, and so um, it's it's just still kind of weird to me. But
Yes.
I love it, but it's just kind of you get this weird feeling when it happens,
Well, it's
and
because also the higher up somebody is, or the more certainly if you hold them in high esteem, uh, there's a possibility they're not going to be a nice person. But often, the higher up the sort of the ladder they are in terms of success and things like that, often really nice people.
mm-hmm,
It's the kind of the people who may be feeling insecurity and want to kind of um, make a point of their status because they're not that comfortable in that status and they're not that secure in their status that can be horrible.
yeah,
And
yeah, very true, very true.
I've always been really surprised by meeting just lovely people.
That's
Right.
another thing that I try to do if I'm interviewing someone or with I have a show called Chat with the Bat, which
Mhm.
you appeared on actually as a guest.
Yes.
Um, I always try to bring something different to the table, and so I'm
Yes.
always trying to come up with some sort of question that I'm sure they have not heard a million times before. So I typically dive as deep as I possibly can into, like, say I'm doing an actor or something, right? And so I'll dive, I'll go and I'll find a little short that they made 10 years
Mm.
ago. And guess what? It's on YouTube. I can go watch it. So I found it and I watch it. And so I start talking to them about that, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't have no idea you even knew this existed, or anyone knew this existed." Kind of,
Yes.
and that just kind of gives me uh, just kind of this weird euphoric thing because
No,
yeah,
I totally get that because I think when you're asking somebody, and I'm by no means, and I think I've said this somewhere. Like I'm by no means like Michael Parkinson or some amazing interviewer or anything at all. I'm trying to just highlight the things that I think need a spotlight shining on them. But whilst I'm doing that, I want to make sure that the questions I ask have not been asked before. If you kind of show interest and knowledge in that person as a person, rather than as a kind of icon or a thing or a person in a movie, just a person, then you can kind of dig a little bit deeper and find out about them. And you're really good at that. It's hard, isn't it, though, being on the other side? So, like you said, I've been on your show and you know I'm mine. When you're a host and when you're an interviewee, or when you're an interviewer and an interviewee, should I say, the distinction is sometimes really tricky to work out. Not talk too much, talk enough to glean some information out of somebody. And when you're doing both of those things, that must be quite tricky to kind of work out. How do you navigate that? How do you navigate interviewing people and being interviewed by other people or talking to other people on their shows?
I would think that I am a good listener. And so when they're going off on a tangent or something, I just let them go. Kind of stuff like that. It's just I try to pay attention to the room. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and it's a skill. It's a skill because sometimes when you're really passionate about something, you want to jump in and you want to go, yeah, I'm really into that too. I love that too. I love that thing that you just said. It's really cool. Maybe the interviewer is a underappreciated role.
It is, and it's a lot harder than people think it is. Like it's not easy to keep the subject on track, or to keep everything cohesive and to make it gel and to make it's and I'm still learning how to do that. I'm not perfect at it. I'm not even close, but so I just try to, instead of doing like this stuck up interview type of thing, I just try to have a chat, just try to have a conversation, and I hope that comes across. I don't know if it does.
I think it does. I think the key is connections, like having a connection with somebody, isn't it? And talking to them on the level. The only time for me in work, rather than necessarily in interviews here, because every interview I've done so far as everybody's been lovely, but in work, when you get across somebody who wants to constantly remind you of the power disparity or then it can become really awkward and really difficult to interview someone. And often in that, I just tune out. I just completely tune out and just go, yep, and I even stop writing.
There've definitely been pretty much everyone I've interviewed has also been pretty lovely. I mean, I'm not, if I think it wouldn't be, I don't think I would ask. You know what I mean? Because I don't know. I like surrounding myself with good, talented people, and I've been fortunate enough to be surrounded by these folks, and they agree to come on, and they're just lovely people, and like I said, they're just people, but they're, of course, they're more well known than I am, of course. They're actors and directors and all these people involved in the movie industry, and a lot of them have a lot of success, and it's still, like I said, it's still like mind-boggling to me that I have this little small YouTube channel. Hey, would you like to come on? And 9 times out of 10 I get, yeah, sure, let's set something up. And it's still amazing to me.
Great, man. That's great. Take YouTube out of the equation and take kind of creating reviews and things like that. Do you have favorite filmmakers, favorite I know you mentioned a couple of YouTube channels that you watch and things like that, but do you have like favorite movies or franchise or whatever it is that you keep returning to, or certain genres that you keep returning to, like when you are off the clock and kind of not thinking about what I should watch for this video, rather than I'm just going to watch something for fun?
Yeah, I definitely have a couple of like sitcoms and whatnot that I kind of typically watch over and over again.
Yeah.
Like the IT Crowd is one.
All right.
Um,
Oh man, awesome.
Parks and Recreation's another. Just
Right.
yeah, just those two in particular. I could just watch those over and over again and just be happy.
Yeah, mine's Community, so I get that. Like I'll watch.
Community's fantastic. Yes,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
fantastic show as well. Oh yeah, there's definitely some directors and whatnot that I really love too. And including some controversial ones like Tarantino and Kubrick, and I love all that stuff. That's a, and that's again, I think that's part of the film school in me, that I
yes,
like all these kind of like artsy kind of things. But then I like things like really awful, ridiculous movies,
yeah.
such as Axum, or
Axum.
you know,
Mm,
yeah, or Miami
yeah,
Connection, or
Miami
something
Connection.
just
That's still
totally,
a legendary film.
totally not. It's a bad movie, but it's so fun,
Yeah.
and I think that's what a lot of things that are missing right now in movies is fun.
I'm
And
gonna kind of try not to be too OTT and like in terms of praise and give you a big head or anything. But I'm sure of this, and maybe I'm thinking this because I love quote unquote bad movies as well. I'm sure I read an article that there's a certain to appreciate a bad movie and the humor of it and the kind of the subtleties of it, you have to be really super intelligent, and not everybody can get it. So
you
maybe
know
that's why you've got either end of the spectrum and the ones in the middle just fade out.
that makes a lot of sense though, because it's that stuff in the middle. Don't give me that. Like I don't want that.
Yeah.
Like I I want the high end stuff,
Yeah.
or like the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah. I
Like
don't know how I'm going to end this, edit this to leave out the fact where I just said we were both super intelligent.
I'll leave it.
Because
What the hell?
yeah, that's like the most the sort of uninclusive and thing I could possibly say, isn't it? Like I am mega mind. So yeah,
I
I
think I read
definitely.
that same article though. That's the funny part.
Yeah, do you know, I wish I could find it, because anytime anyone starts saying to me, "Do we really have to watch this?" And I go, "No, but there's a reason for it. It's because, we're broadening our horizons." I can kind of see now those either end of the spectrum. It's a nice place to be, rather than just blah. And yeah,
Yeah.
and I think your reviews cover that as well, don't they? Because sometimes you'll choose films and genres of films that maybe people are not that familiar with. So you've got to kind of just go, I'm really interested in this. I think other people might be too, if they
Oh
give it a
yeah, and
chance.
I'll kind of randomly throw in like some weird thriller from the 1940s, or
Mm,
like a western or something, just something random, and it's just because either I really enjoyed it, or and I think a lot of people, even though I am a predominantly, like, I guess, horror and cult movie
hmm.
channel, um
Yeah.
people like other things too, so
Yeah. True.
including me. So I
Yeah. Yeah.
like every kind of movie pretty much. I like something about, or at least a movie in that genre, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Definitely.
I don't want to limit myself, put it that way. I don't,
Yeah.
because there's so much out there, and there's so much that can be said about all these things, and people, I notice a lot of people just stay in just one particular little thing. Like I know one guy, his whole channel is about slasher movies. So
Mhm.
you're not going to get him talking about, David Lynch, or, or anything,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
if and another way, as I look at it, is that if I like it, somebody else will probably like it too.
Yeah. And the way my brain works is we've had a conversation on your show. We started off talking about Nosferatu, and we ended up talking about Saved by the Bell.
Yes.
Now, that's a massive chasm between that you couldn't do. Was it 6 degrees of seven? 6 degrees of seven bacon, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, or um, that's not something that would normally be in the same interview. But I think being open to just going down different avenues is really interesting. And I think as well, it's the way a lot of people's minds work. We do just sometimes just bounce from thing to thing. And I think the way that social media and scrolling and the way things work, it makes people who have brains like that start working even faster. So my last question really is, how do you go, right, I'm this is my pastime, this is something I enjoy, this is my hobby, I'm really passionate about doing a good job and getting as many people involved as possible. But when do you just go, I'm going to have a break from this, switch off the phone, switch off the TV, and do something else? Or is it, this is the relaxing part? Do you know what I mean? Like, what? If that makes sense.
To a degree, it is, because it, all these movies and talking about all these movies is really something that I love to do.
Yeah.
And the fact that people actually watch and stuff is amazing, because I thought I'd put on some videos on YouTube. Oh, maybe my mom will watch it or something, or one of my friends will check it out. Never thinking that this could be an actual hobby that kind of meant something to people. But it does relax me in a weird way. It's especially when I'm doing not the reviews so much or the interviews, but like when I'm doing stuff like list or doing like a top 10 or something like that. Like that to me is just fun. Like that's just straight up fun. Like I don't even have to really think about it that much. So
like
it's
a watch along. I find watch alongs real fun because it's just socializing essentially.
And the watch alongs are amazing. I need to do more of them. I do a lot with Gareth, aka Video Tasties. I do a lot with him, who's another Brit, by the way. And so I do a lot with him, and we watch all kind of weird stuff. Like the other day, we watched Howard the Duck together. So so we watch all these wacky things and just comment on it. And it's not really like riff tracks, because we go off into these like weird tangents and, and whatnot. And, chat with the people in the chat and stuff. So it's so it's a little bit different, but it's super fun. I love you did a watch along with me of Axum, and so that was super fun.
That was great, and that was really nice because your aunt was in the video as well, and I got to know her, and she's a lovely lady. So it is a really nice inclusive feel, and I guess that takes us full circle to the beginning of the interview, really, which just to say thank you so much for including people in the horror community, opening up that horror community to include people who just like horror and also absolutely love it with every fiber of their being, and the people in between. Just a huge thank you for doing this interview. How your philosophy for what you do, which I think is really admirable, because people feel included, people feel like they're learning and also having fun at the same time. So that's great. So thank you so much, Al, for spending this hour with us and explaining all about yourself, really, because I found it absolutely fascinating.
Absolutely. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I will say that the horror community, especially the YouTube horror community, most of them are absolutely amazing people. I've become, like I said, I've become friends with a whole bunch of them. And actually some of my best friends, I actually talk to them more than I talk to people I work with. So you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
It's really good, and there's really, really great people. So try to support the people that you enjoy on YouTube, because they, we're all just trying hard to make decent content and to put stuff out for you. So that's that's really what it's about. We want you to enjoy what we do. Like
that's a really important point, I think, because it's not a competition. It's not like you.
We all support each other, and it's it's kind of like a big happy horror family.
Strangely, I think you might have the dropper on us with that in America. There's seemingly a more supportive approach to it, and I think there are certain people who I'm lucky enough to speak to who are trying to support each other in the UK and build that infrastructure to be successful, rather than kind of looking at each other with skepticism and kind of knocking each other down a little bit. And maybe we could all learn a little bit from you about that, actually, and you'll, you know, and kind of, that's a really great way to finish off the interview. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks so much. I appreciate it.